Hello and welcome to another video. Today we're going to take a look at a cheap but very strong team for Catch Cup. First of all, we have probably the king of Catch Cup, Altaria, because it's one of the best Pokemon in Great League and it costs basically nothing to make, at least if you have the candy for it. And you can find one close to 600 CP like the one I have right here. As you see, I was very lucky with mine. If you can't find one close to 600 CP or you don't have the candy for it, you can also do a Mega Raid. If you find a Mega Raid whilst it's weather boosted, you only have to power it up a couple of times to get it close to 1500 CP. Other than that, we have Golbat. You can choose any of the poison types that are available right now, like Skuntank, Drapion or whatever, but Golbat only costs 10,000 starters to get the second move, and it's available at close to 1500 CP if you're lucky enough to find it. They are pretty much everywhere. And to round out the team, I went for Lantern. You can go for a fighter if you have one of those, or any of the Stunfisk variants. They're a little bit more expensive. I went for Lantern because it has been very available for like quite a long time. So most people might have one from like the last week or so. And also because Lantern and Altaria just make for a very good core, and it's just a very good Pokemon as well. And you can find a Chinchou that's going to evolve to close to 1500 CP as well. So it's not that expensive. You do have to spend 50,000 Stardust on it to get the second move, which is necessary. It's also necessary on Golbat, but I think it's worth it. Going into the first game, we lead into a Shadow Alolan Ninetales. Pretty good lead, but this one does have Charm, which makes the matchup a little bit worse. Obviously, Powder Snow is better. It takes 8 for the Alolan Ninetales to get the Side Shock, so we go up to right before they get there, and then we go for the Surf. This barely doesn't take out the Alolan Ninetales, so they get off the Side Shock. You generally want to keep the Lantern alive in case there's a Galarian Stunfisk in the back. This is how the team works. It's basically an ABB team where you use the Golbat to lure out the Stunfisk so Lantern can deal with it. But they swap into Shadow Swampert, and usually Altaria can lift 3 Hydro Cannons from this and then just farm it all the way down. But because this Altaria doesn't have quite the same IVs as I'm used to, it doesn't look like maybe it can, but I decide to go for a Sky Attack before it gets to the 3rd Hydro Cannon. And they should take out the Shadow Swampert, and then they bring in the dreaded Stunfisk. Galarian Stunfisk is alright to see, obviously not on Altaria, but when we're down shields, it's not ideal. So we're gonna have to play around with some things here. The Alolan Ninetales is basically out of the game. It has no HP, that's what's behind the Stunfisk. So I do bring in the Golbat here. The Stunfisk did farm up to back-to-back Rock Slide before throwing on Altaria, so it has a lot of energy. So we have to make something happen here. It's going to be a very tough game to win. We go for the bait. The Poison Fang bait. Do they shield it? Yes, they do. That's a very good start. And now we're just going to try and bring in some chaos here. Maybe hope to make them make a mistake. They go for a Rock Slide. They have back-to-back. I wait to see up in the right-hand corner. It is the Alolan Ninetales. So I don't throw. I just go for the Water Gun. And then we go for the Surf on CMP. This is amazing. We grab the last shield. And they throw their energy. They should be 3 or 4 away from the next Rock Slide. Or 4 or 5. So now they're 3 or 4. I'm not quite sure. So do 3 wing attacks and then go for the Shadow Ball. This does about 36% to Galarian Stunfisk. It's going to be very close. But it takes out the Galarian Stunfisk. And that is a good game. Next game. Lead into a Lantern. Luckily, most Lanterns in this meta run Water Gun because there are just so many Stunfisk. So this one is also running Water Gun. We are kind of ABA weak to Spark Lantern if we ever see one. I don't think I met one in the lead. I did meet a couple of Spark Lanterns in the back, but Altaria can handle it. They shield the Thunderbolt. We shield the Thunderbolt. You kind of want to keep the Lantern alive. This is not the ideal matchup because obviously you can't pivot out into the Golbat. It would be very bad against Lantern. So we do let them get to another Thunderbolt. We overfarm a lot, go for our own Thunderbolt. And at this point, I mean, I'm kind of okay with just letting my Lantern go down. Gets an energy advantage on Golbat because the Lantern is dry now. So we can just bring in the Golbat, farm the Lantern down. They don't allow it, they bring in Alolan Ninetales. And this is kind of where we want to see it. We do not like it when the opponent have 2 flying counters. So this is not ideal, but Golbat can put this very low. Golbat also wins CMP, and it takes 5 for the first, 4 for the second Weather Ball, so we go for the CMP here. And now it's gonna come down to, because obviously the Alolan Ninetales gonna take out the Golbat here. They shield this. Can they get to another Weather Ball? Dragon Breath is double resisted. It is double debuff. Can we farm them down before they get to another Weather Ball? Yes, we can. That is awesome. They bring in Galarian Stunfisk, and it does not matter. That is a good game. Yikes. 3 flying counters in one game. Next game, lead into Galarian Stunfisk. This is where we want to see it. We generally don't like this Pokemon with this team. Double flying is obviously not good against Galarian Stunfisk, but seeing it in the lead is fine. Seeing it in the back, we usually lure it out with Golbat. They go straight for the Earthquake. I'm not entirely sure if you want to shield the first move here. It's such a bait-dependent matchup, obviously. But we go for the shield, go for the Surf. And now at this point, I think it's a pretty safe shield. Because even if they Rock Slide, I think I'm going to be able to catch the Earthquake on my flyer. Shield the Earthquake. And that is a good game for some reason. I have no idea what my opponent had in the back. But they were so weak to Lantern, apparently. They just concede the match. Next game, lead into another Water Gun Lantern. Surely they don't have another flying counter in the back again, right? Go for the Thunderbolt. And they decide to shield it. But we should be able to get off another Thunderbolt. They throw one turn before we get to the Thunderbolt. Obviously, Lantern's pace at the same time. So unless there's lag, there should only be a Surf. It is only a Surf, so we do get off a second Thunderbolt. And they should either grab the last shield or put them in a range where our flyers can handle it. We let our Lantern go down so we can farm them down with Altaria. They should only be a Surf as well, I think. Yeah, just barely only a Surf. And now what do they bring in? They bring in another flying counter. But Golbat up a shield is actually alright against the Alolan Ninetales. So if they don't swap out, it's okay. But they do swap out into Noctowl. And they save their Alolan Ninetales for Altaria. Yikes. Go for the Poison Fang. Obviously, have to go for the Poison Fangs against Noctowl. Just keep spamming them. Lowering their defense. I think a way to play this could have been to just let the Golbat go here so we can get a massive farm down on Altaria, save a shield, and then come out with a lot of energy for the Alolan Ninetales. I do decide to shield Golbat and then go for the CMP on the next Sky Attack, hoping they would let it go, but they do shield it, and now switch timers are up, so we're gonna bring in our Altaria after this, they're gonna bring in the Alolan Ninetales, and as you're gonna see, the Alolan Ninetales just has too much HP, there's no way Sky Attack is enough. So I concede the game. That is a GG. Double flying counters. We do not like them. Next game, lead into another Galarian Stunfisk. I've been seeing so many Galarian Stunfisk. I was not anticipating that people would expend this many resources on Catch Cup, but that might be because of my elo. I'm not sure. Maybe people are just tryharding too much. Once again, I shield, and I get pretty lucky. It's another Earthquake. It might as well be a Rock Slide. It's pretty 50-50 if people bait or go for the nuke here, I feel. I've been pretty lucky that most people have gone for Earthquakes in this meta. We take out the Stunfisk, they let the second Surf go, and then they bring in the Charmer Alolan Ninetales. I will almost swap into Golbat, but realized, you know what? We kind of want to keep switch here. Get Golbat onto the Charmer and not Altaria onto the Charmer. So we stay in with Lantern to get Golbat onto the Charmer. Shield this Weather Ball. It's 6 for every Weather Ball, so there should be 3 away from the next one. And then they bring in Noctowl. We'll load up to this Poison Fang. Golbat does win CMP against the Alolan Ninetales, so we will be able to get it off no matter what in the back. It's very tempting to go for the Poison Fang against the Noctowl when it's switch locked, but I think it's the better play to just save it for the Alolan Ninetales because Altaria can handle Noctowl even down a little bit of energy. Or it can at least put it in a range where Golbat can handle it afterwards. So we didn't have to throw the Poison Fang, and I think saving it for Alolan Ninetales just makes more sense. Then they get to another move on Golbat. I choose not to throw any energy here because I know I can live any move from Noctowl, and then I can get to a Shadow Ball on the Alolan Ninetales. A Poison Fang would have been enough, but Shadow Ball does more damage, and to be completely honest, I am not 100% sure on my Golbat matchups. I haven't been playing this Pokemon in so long or facing it. It's pretty good. It's been working out really well. Next game, lead into a Surf Edge. We have 2 better responses in the back. So we're swapping Golbat. Golbat is always the safe swap just because there are so many Galarian Stunfisk. And you really, really do not want the Altaria locked in against the Galarian Stunfisk. Using Golbat to lure out Stunfisk is a pretty good idea. You don't want to shield the first move from Drapion, but they throw off the 4 the second time around, so they do have Aqua Tail. I realized that I'm going to be able to win switch here, so I decided to shield my Golbat so I can get Altaria onto Surf Edge, which is a really good matchup. So now they get to another Aqua Tail, but if we shield this as well, we should just be able to win switch, come out with a lot of energy after farming this down, and now we can get Altaria onto Surf Edge, which is a pretty good thing. Go for the Poison Fang, thinking I could get to another one, but I think I might have miscounted a little bit because the Surf Edge actually get to the move at the same time, and of course Surf Edge is going to win CMP here. It has a ridiculously high attack stat. Go for the Night Slash, take out Golbat, and then they bring in Galarian Stunfisk. I don't know why they didn't bring in Galarian Stunfisk onto my Golbat. I mean, it's kind of my strategy to have my opponent bring in the Galarian Stunfisk onto my Golbat. What were they thinking? Not following my strategy? No, honestly, Galarian Stunfisk has a lot better of a matchup against Golbat than Drapion does, so maybe it was a misclick, I'm not sure. But now they do get the Galarian Stunfisk onto Altaria. Once again, down shields against Galarian Stunfisk is not a good place to be with this team. But I didn't think it would be there because they didn't bring it in against my Golbat. But Altaria is a bit of a beast, so it can live 2 Rock Slides, and it's Dragon Breathing this Stunfisk into a range where we might be able to take it out. But then my opponent catches the Sky Attack onto the Surf Edge. We undercharge it massively so that we might be able to get to another Sky Attack on this Stunfisk. We get to it on CMP. Is this enough to take out the Stunfisk? No, it's not. But Altaria actually did quite a lot of damage to this Stunfisk and made the game a lot closer than I initially thought it would be when I saw the Galarian Stunfisk. So, good game. Next game, lead into another Water Gun Lantern. We can't really pivot out. We kind of just have to hope there's not a Galarian Stunfisk behind this thing. It's not the best Pokemon to see. They go for the Thunderbolt, we let it go. And then we overfarm and go for our own Thunderbolt. Pretty standard matchup. They also let it go. And because of my IVs, I'm expecting to win CMP, which is why I dare to go for the Thunderbolt. You've probably seen me go for some serves, like the opponent did there. Also, they were almost dry of energy, so I actually do decide to save the serve on my Lantern and bring in the Golbat to hopefully lure out the Stunfisk, but instead we lure out a Frostlass, which is also great because Altaria really does not want to see this. We go for the bait because people are way more incentivized to shield when you have a move that can one-shot them, or like very close to one-shot them, and we have Shadow Ball, obviously. I also shield, go for another bait, but my opponent reads me like a book and no shields it. And then we shield their Avalanche and farm the Frostlass all the way down. Golbat can actually take out a Frostlass, that's pretty wild. If they bring in Lantern, I want to save the energy because the Lantern has almost no energy. So expending energy here would not be very efficient. So I save the energy, bring in the Altaria, and they bring in a Beedrill. And most Beedrills run X-Scissor and Drill Run, but because this is Catch Cup, they might not have expended that Elite TM, meaning they might have Sludge Bomb, which would do massive damage onto Altaria. But they don't have Sludge Bomb. They only have X-Scissor, probably Drill Run. So they can't take out Altaria. This is just a very dominant matchup. We get to another Sky Attack, take out the Beedrill, and in the back, there's just the Lantern, and they concede the match. That is a good game. Next game, lead into yet another Bear Trap. The Galarian Stunfisk. They swap into a Water Gun Lantern, and Altaria has a very good matchup against the Water Gun Lantern. But the issue here is you really do not want to leave your Altaria hanging against the Galarian Stunfisk. What I mean by that is if you leave your Altaria with like a lot of HP or like this amount of HP, the Galarian Stunfisk can just overfarm to 100 energy because it takes such little damage from Altaria and just come out with a lot of energy to threaten the Lantern a lot more. So what I do is I try to leave my Altaria with as little HP as possible. I do, like, if they take switch, it's obviously very bad, but if I leave my Altaria with more HP, the Stunfisk just gets so much energy that it's going to be able to threaten my Lantern a lot more. So I do jeopardize switch by leaving my Altaria with that little HP. They could have just farmed me down with Lantern, but they decided to allow me to get switch and get Lantern onto Stunfisk, Golbat onto this Drapion. And it's an okay situation. They get to another crunch before we get to another move. I decided to let it go, thinking that they have to go for an Earthquake on Stunfisk anyways. So I can take this crunch just fine on Lantern. No problem. Just farm the Drapion all the way down, come out with a lot of energy to threaten the Galarian Stunfisk. But because the Lantern is such bad IVs, again, the Rock Slides are starting to look quite threatening. And it does pace to Rock Slides quite a lot quicker than we outpace to Surfs. So it's very good we got a lot of energy. But also, a Surf only does about 39% damage here. So it might not be enough with only one. And a Rock Slide is definitely enough at this point. So we let them get to the back-to-back Rock Slide. And of course Lantern is going to win CMP here. We have to go for the CMP. And just hope that this Surf is enough to take out the Stunfisk. It's very close. Go for it. And it is enough to take out the Stunfisk. That is a good game. Next game lead into a Scrafty. We have two better responses in the back. We save swap, Golbat. This is a very good matchup. They stay in for a while, not really sure what to do. And then they bring in a Tentacruel, which is not a response to Golbat. We go straight for the Shadow Ball. And it lands. Does about half to the Tentacruel. And I'm thinking, I really want switch here. I mean, Lantern has a pretty decent matchup against Scrafty, but getting Altaria onto Scrafty, that's a very good matchup. So I go up to 6, it takes 8 for the first gold, 7 for the second one. Golbat is going to win CMP, so if they no-shield this, I can go for another Poison Fang. They do shield it. I should have probably gone for the Shadow Ball afterwards. I wasn't quite sure I had it, so I let them get to another move. I shield it, but at this point we should be able to farm them down before they get to a Scald. This should only be an Acid Spray, if I counted correctly. And it is only an Acid Spray, but we're double Acid Spray now. So I don't think we're getting to 2 Shadow Balls, which is why I'm going for the Poison Fang and then for the Shadow Ball. Anticipating that the Alolan Mug is probably not going to shield this move because it's resisted, but they do shield it. And now we're of course going to bring in the Lantern. Both of our remaining Pokemon are pretty neutral against Alolan Mug, but we want Altaria onto that Scrafty. Go for the Dark Pulse, swap into Scrafty, we swap in Altaria, and this is a pretty good spot. But they go up to 12 counters, meaning they're 1 away from back-to-back Foul Play, takes 7 for the first, 6 for the second. So if we CMP them, or if we throw the Sky Attack immediately, we're gonna CMP them, which Scrafty would win, which is why we don't go for the Sky Attack. And at this point, if I go for a Sky Attack, I'm gonna leave my Altaria without enough energy, I think, to get to a Sky Attack on the Alolan Mug. But in farm range for the Alolan Mug to get energy. So I thought I was actually going to get taken out by the Scrafty, but I would rather get taken out by the Scrafty than leave my Altaria without enough energy to get to a move and in farm range for the Mugs to get energy, which is why I didn't throw the Sky Attack. But we do get off the Sky Attack on Alolan Mug. It doesn't quite take out, but a Surf from Lantern does the job, and that's a good game. Next game, lead into an Excadrill of all things in Great League. This thing hurts like a truck. It is such a squishy Pokemon, but it does about 70% to a Lantern with that Drill Run. And then they swap into a Noctowl after we shield the first move. And I'm just going to be honest, I don't have a game plan for what to do when the opponent swaps a Noctowl onto my Lantern. You might be aware of why I haven't made a plan for this situation, because I mean, who swaps a Noctowl onto a Lantern? Oh well, we swap in Golbat. The reason why we swap in Golbat on our Altaria is because Golbat can hit back onto the Excadrill after taking out the Noctowl, which I hope it's gonna be able to do. Whereas if I bring my Altaria in and switch lock it, the Excadrill can just overfarm a lot once again and get off a lot of energy for the Lantern. So we go for the Poison Fang here. It's not quite enough to take out the Noctowl. Then they swap in Galvantula. I notice it. So we go for the Shadow Ball. This is going to do a lot of damage if it lands. It does land onto the Shadow Galvantula. They only get 2 Volt Switches. So they're not going to get to move. I really should be bringing in Lantern because I need the energy on Lantern for the Excadrill. But for some reason I bring in the Altaria. This is definitely a misplay. They swap in Excadrill. I swap in Lantern. Get to the first surf. They're 1 away from their next drill run. They would get to it. But they decide to let Excadrill go. I'm not really sure. I think I would have been able to win with Altaria anyways, but they would have definitely gotten to that drill run before I got to 2 serves. But whatever, next game, lead into a Galarian Slowbro. For some reason, I thought this got to Sludge Bombs after 7 each time. It's 8 for the first, 7 for the following ones. So I try to catch, I think I shield the first one thinking that it probably has Surf as the second move, and there's just no way you're baiting a Lantern with a Surf. And then I try to catch the Sludge Bomb on my Golbat. Unsuccessfully, they go for the Surf instead. But we save the Lantern, we bring out the Galarian Stunfisk. This is a pretty good spot. I want them to throw immediately because the Rock Slide only does about 50%, which is why I'm over farming like this, trying to incentivize them to throw quicker, hoping that they can knock out Golbat. But no, they overfarm appropriately and then go for the Rock Slide, come up with a lot of energy. And again, we're down shields against this thing. It's not ideal. Go for the Surf right before they get to the Earthquake. This should grab the shield or take them out. And we grab the shield. And now they overfarm a little bit, go for a move. I'm expecting them to go for the Earthquake. Don't be afraid to overkill in these situations. So we go for the shield and then go for the Surf on CMP on the Rock Slide. I probably could have taken the Rock Slide, but yeah, I would rather take out the Stunfisk. Maybe I should have saved the energy because now they bring in a Water Gun Lapras. We go for the bait. I go up to right before I get to the Thunderbolt. I probably should have done 1 more Water Gun, but it's tough to count Water Guns, so my opponent does shield. I try to catch a Surf, but I try to catch a little bit too late, so they take out the Lantern. And now my only win con is that they don't have Ice Beam. But once again, this is Catch Cup. They're probably not going to Elite TM their Lapras. So it might have Skull Bash instead. It takes 25 Water Guns to get to the Skull Bash. And they do get to it. And now we want to go for the Sky Attack right before they get to the Surf. It takes 13 for the Surf, 14 for the first, 13 for the second 2. So we get to the Sky Attack right before they get to the Surf, but it's not enough. So they get off the Surf, they're 1 away from a Surf on the Galarian Slowbro, but we Dragon Breath them down before they get there, and that is a good game. Very, very close. Next game, lead into another Galarian Stunfisk. Good thing to see it here. This one tries to catch on their own Lantern. We don't really have a proper response to a Spark Lantern. The best response is Altaria, but once again, I don't want to leave my Altaria hanging for the Galarian Stunfisk to just farm up a lot of energy on. So yeah, go up to right before they get to the Thunderbolt and quote unquote bait the Sky Attack. Make it look like I'm going for the Moonblast. They do shield it, but yeah, we don't have Moonblast. I probably should shield this and just keep switch advantage, but yeah, I was just so afraid of like leaving my Altaria with that amount of HP so the Stunfisk could come in and farm. But yeah, keeping switch would probably be the right play there. Probably a bit of a misplay because now they bring in a Dragonair and that is just such a hard counter to Lantern. We bring in Golbat, they bring in Stunfisk, and this is a very bad spot. We go for the Shadow Ball. And it does land. It does quite a bit of damage to this Stunfisk. I'm thinking my only win con is if I can somehow debuff the Dragonair in the back. So I do decide to double shield by Golbat. Lantern does basically no damage to Dragonair, so I really need this debuff. So I go up to the CMP tie, and I'm thinking, they might be thinking that I'm going for the Poison Fang because it's so tempting to go for when they're so low. And maybe they're no-shielded for that reason. So I go for the Shadow Ball, hoping to take them out so I can get a Poison Fang onto the Dragonair. But they shielded. Very nice play by my opponent to realize that, yeah, what I was doing basically, trying to get that debuff onto Dragonair. And at this point, a Surf only does about 28%. I'm not even getting to 2 Surfs, so no point in throwing any moves. That is just a good game. Next game, lead into another Galarian Slowbro. I was expecting to see a few of these since it had a community day. This time we go for the Thunderbolt. Unfortunately we lose CMP, and the opponent full sends a Focus Blast. That is a lot of energy to shield. Very nice. We go for the Thunderbolt because we saw last time a Surf is not enough to take it out. And then they bring in a Spark Lantern. Of course, our best response is Altaria once again. Let the first move go. Probably a Thunderbolt. And then we go up to right before they get to the next Thunderbolt. Make it look like we're gonna go for the Moonblast. Of course, it takes 20 Dragon Breaths to get to the Moonblast, so you need to go like 5 Dragon Breath over the Sky Attack to fake it as best as possible. And once again, our non-Moonblast Altaria gets the shield from a Lantern. That is very satisfying. Bring in the Lantern after letting Altaria go. And they just about outpace to a Thunderbolt here, which is not ideal of course, but they're dry now. And I kind of want to save the energy, so I'll swap into Golbat. And then they try to catch on their Slowbro, so we get a farm down on Golbat, which is pretty huge. But a Poison Fang only does about 18.5%, and I don't want to throw an entire Shadow Ball at this. So I decide to not throw immediately. I also let this go. They only did 5 sparks, so it could only be a Surf. And then I go up to 100 energy, go for the Poison Fang. This should be very close to KOing the Lantern. It just about takes out the Lantern. And then they have a Pyro in the back. I throw in pretty bad timing, not expecting them to have a 5-turn move. It's pretty rare you see Pokemon with 5-turn move. I have a Surf loaded in the back, so if they shield this, I can just swap in Lantern and go for the Surf. If they no shield it, swap in Lantern, go for the Water Gun farm down. We get it, and that is a good game. That was the last battle for today, and overall, obviously, it's very difficult to make team recommendations in a cup like Catch Cup, but I think it's more a recommendation of Altaria, as in if you see a Swablu on the nearby, go and catch it. If you see a Mega Altaria raid and it's weather boosted, go and do it. If you have some friends around you, unfortunately you can't do it by yourself. And the other two are also very good. Golbat is very cheap, especially if you can find one close to 1500 CP. Other than that, fun fact of the day, a very good Water Gun Lantern, as in a lot better than the one that I had in this video, beats Umbreon in all even shield scenarios. You have to land a Thunderbolt in the 1 shields, but in the 0s and the 2 shields you can just go straight Surf. And most Umbreons don't like to shield, so I would recommend going straight Surf. Other than that, I know I haven't been too active recently. I am planning on uploading a lot more in the beginning of next season. So if you like what you see, like and subscribe. Thank you for watching, and I hope to see you next time.